I loved my biology professor. He was such a cool dude. Almost died twice. That's another story. Hi, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're new, my name is Solimar and I am an aspiring nurse here on YouTube, and I'm just sharing my journey through pre-nursing and hopefully through nursing school. Today I'm going to talk about why I chose nursing as my profession. This is actually a pretty long story, and let's just say I didn't know what I wanted to do, and this just ended up fitting for me. So to get started, backtrack to when I was in high school. I just started high school. My parents were both like bickering and like, what do you want to do? And at that time, I kind of knew I liked medicine and medical, but I also had no clue at all as to like how I was going to take it and which direction I was going to go. And then my freshman year of high school, I took Psych 101 and I loved it. I love psychology, and at one point I considered going into the field of psychology. And with that, I considered two routes. Clinical psychology, which is they're not exactly a doctor like a psychiatrist, but they do work in clinical settings, or a therapist. Now, 15-year-old me off the bat said, I don't want to deal with people's emotions, so I didn't really look much into the therapist route. But I did look into clinical psychology, which I believe is a master's or PhD program, so there's a lot of extensive work to get to that route, to go through that route. Then a couple more years into high school, I started looking into pediatrics and psychiatry, becoming either a pediatrician or a psychiatrist. So I was considering becoming a doctor, and during that time I was taking classes dual enrolled at a local community college. So I was starting to take bio and all of those other science courses needed for medical school and other medical programs. And then I discovered around like when I was 16 the PA route, which is a physician assistant. And a physician assistant is a master's program that can prescribe, diagnose, and treat patients with doctor supervision. So that appealed to me a lot because the years were less than a doctor. And also you can switch specialties whenever you want with minimal training. So I then decided maybe I should go the route of a PA. I started taking more science classes. I wasn't really super dedicated into like hunkering down in high school my classes. I was just taking some here and some there, just trying to feel out what I was trying to do, but pretty non-committally. So when I was 16, I started looking into the PA route more. I discovered it through just Googling, and it is a physician assistant, is a master's degree, and you can prescribe, diagnose, and treat patients with doctor supervision. And one thing I really liked about that is that you can jump from different specialties with minimal training. And so I thought PA would be a good route in deciding which areas I want to be in. And my last year of high school, I took biology, as I previously mentioned, and I loved it. So I knew from then I was gonna go into something medical. I loved my biology professor. He was such a cool dude. Almost died twice. That's another story. But he had like amazing stories about what he's done. He would give us a lot of advice about those going into the medical field, and I just also love the dissections. That was one of the first times like I was able to dissect, and I loved it. I loved poking through animals and living things and doing experiments, and I just overall really liked it and thought, yes, this is something I want to do. And during my time in that class, I didn't know it at the time, but he introduced me into what is known as public health. Public health is the overall health of the public. It takes in socioeconomic status, race, gender, and all other things in aspect of someone's health and healthcare. And he would talk a lot about food deserts. Food deserts are areas, for example, in the US that do not have adequate supermarkets, and instead have fast food joints and gas stations to provide their food, which are less healthy and inexpensive. So think about like in comparison to, you could buy a burger for $1, but salads can be $6 to $10. That is a discrepancy found in the US and also prevalent in food deserts. And when I found out about this subject, I fell in love. I just love the idea of like I just love learning about it, and I love the idea of changing that and helping those disadvantaged communities into getting healthy food, because food is life. Food, what you put in your body, does have an impact on your daily life, and without healthy food, you're not able to thrive and do things day to day, or even like go higher and level up in society without proper health and without proper nutrition. So my first year of university, I took Chem 1, and Chem 1 was a doozy. It was rough. I suffered. I did not enjoy the class at all. It was a big lecture hall. I was confused. I was learning stuff in Unit 1 and Unit 3. Nothing ever really clicked, and for PA school, you have to go to Orgo 1. So at that point, I was like, is this really worth it? I can't even do Chem 1. How am I supposed to be able to do Orgo? So at that point, I considered or started reconsidering my career path, because one thing I didn't have was really a backup plan. I just thought I will fit perfectly in this PA, and I would do all the classes, and I will go to PA school, and I'll be a PA, and that's it, and that's all I can do. So I didn't really leave any other options to me. Around the same time, I was taking Intro to Health Professions, which basically is a class that it's what you think, Intro to Health Professions. It explains different health professions across the scale and breaks down what the requirements, what you do. And during that, I looked into nursing again. I looked at nursing briefly when I was considering it, but it was something I wasn't really serious about. So I started looking into being a nurse practitioner. Nurse practitioners are very, very similar to PAs in their scope of practice. So it was something that if I didn't want to be PA or couldn't continue in the route I thought I could, then maybe nursing is for me. And during that time of just learning about nursing and nurse practitioners, I discovered the nursing model of care. The nursing model of care focuses on social economic status, nutrition, prevention, and all those other things that I grew to love with the biology professor I had. So that was just more of another reason to take the NP route in comparison to PA. PAs use the medical model, which is great, but I was more drawn to the NP route or the nursing model of taking care of patients. So with NP school, or with becoming a nurse practitioner, the route is it's different than a PA, but the end goal is very, very similar. With that, I decided to look into nursing more, just to decide whether or not this would really, really be for me. And with that, I would need a BSN to get started. And one thing I did like about nursing is that you can work in diverse specialties. When you are just a nurse, there's going to be possibly some certifications that need to be done in order to go to certain specialties, but for the most part, you can switch throughout the hospital. And in addition, you can do travel nursing, you can go into home health, you could do a lot of different things with nursing. And with that, I decided that would be really great for me, because I wasn't really sure where I would fit in the healthcare setting. So I thought that being a nurse would give me a lot of options into what to do next, or what fields to go into next. And then when I decided nursing was for me, I did look into all the classes I took. A lot of them centered around public health and like women's health, peds, public, and I just noticed that I had a lot of interests that would help me in the nursing field, like depression, eating disorders, chronic disease, reproductive health. I noticed that all of my interests were situated in public health. So having that nursing model of care and that background really would help me in that field. Some specialties that I definitely learned that I would be very much interested in pursuing in nursing include public health. Like I said, I love the idea of helping disadvantaged communities and just chronic disease and illness and things that affect everyday people. Pediatrics, I love little kids. They're adorable. That's never changed. They're so adorable and so fun to work with. I've thought of maternal health. I took a class in maternal health and I loved it, and labor and delivery as well. I would love to help mothers and fathers during that time of welcoming new life into the world. So I'm also still very much interested in psychiatry. In university, I took a class called Abnormal Psychology, and with that class, the teacher explained it pretty well about psychiatric disorders, and she said the last thing to change with a person who has a psychiatric disorder is their behavior. And that was something that was really fascinating to me, because the stereotype with psychiatric disorders is that it's all in your head, which is true. It is your brain. It is your brain. Your brain is having issues, and it is solving those issues in a way that negatively affects you. And just knowing that, like, the last thing to change is behavior was just very interesting, and I would love to learn more about the brain and how it can do all those crazy things. And that's all I have to talk about today. Let me know what you want to see in the comments. I have a video coming out very soon, and thank you so much. Bye.